Today, for the very first time, I'm going to be listening to the brand new The Rasmus album. This is Rise. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on my channel. If you've never seen a video like this on my channel before, know that what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the Rasmus here at the beginning, my feelings about them, some of my favorite albums in their catalog, and then I'm going to listen to the album Rise for the very first time all the way through from front to back, talking over the music pretty much the entire time. So if you haven't heard this album, I recommend listening to it before you watch my reaction. But what I'll be doing is listening to production things, songwriting, song structuring. I might focus a little bit on lyrics if anything strikes me, but for the most part, I tend to focus much more on the audio engineering aspect of things, the mixing, things like that. I'm going to be using Spotify, so we'll probably get some ads because I only use the free version of Spotify. So I'll be listening at free version of Spotify quality, which is, I believe, 192 kilobit MP3s. But I haven't really noticed too much of an issue when I've done that on my channel in the past, so hopefully it'll be all right quality-wise. And we will get some ads, but I'll just edit around those, and I will have everything clearly labeled on screen. When I'm done listening all the way through the video, I will do my sort of album review, if you will, or give my overall thoughts, and then so you can skip to that section if you want. You will notice in the description of this video I include timestamps for all the different sections, including each of the individual songs. So if you have a favorite song, please skip to that song. If you want to listen to it, whatever. Watch whatever you want. If you want to just skip to the end, like I said, and listen to my thoughts, feel free to do that as well. Another thing I have to say right at the beginning is that I have been having bad luck on my channel recently with getting my videos like this copyright claimed and actually blocked around the world if I use the music from the album in the video. So I'm going to attempt to do that. I don't know, the status of the Rasmus's copyrights stuff like online. I don't know if they are okay with people using their music and sharing monetization or whatever. My channel is not monetized, so I'm actually starting to wonder if the fact that I don't have my channel monetized is hurting me more than other channels, because I know some artists or some copyright holders at least allow you to share monetization, but I would assume if that were the case, then the Rasmus or whoever owns the copyright would just add an ad or something and before my video. I'm not sure how that works, but my videos are not monetized. I'm not partnered with YouTube. And so if I run into trouble with copyright, I will have to unfortunately upload this video without the audio that I'm hearing in the video. So you will not be able to listen along with me in the video. However, if that is the case, and if it's the case or not, regardless, I will include a link in the description of the video to listen to the album on Spotify. I will include a link to their website. Maybe if I can find like one of those, a link tree links to all the different ways to listen to the album, I'll try to include that. But I'll include ways to listen to the album regardless. But if I get into trouble with copyright and I have to upload this video without the music, please know that you can hit play along with me and hopefully listen along with me. If we get into the ads, I know it gets annoying, but I'll edit those out, and like I said, I will clearly label where the beginning of the songs are, and I'll try to keep that in mind and say the song starting now or something as I'm listening. So cross our fingers and dot our I's and T's and everything that we can use the actual audio from the album and it won't be an issue. So hopefully that's the case. So I guess one other thing I would mention, if you're looking at the stuff around me and everything, like my set here, if you notice the records behind me and you want a little bit more information on those, you can watch the end of my I recorded it, and I don't know which order this is going to be my 5th reaction actually that I've recorded in the last few days. So I'm not sure the exact order that I'm going to upload things. I may decide to upload the Rasmus one first since their album just came out, but if you look on my channel and you see a Stabbing Westward reaction, at the very end of that video, I'm going to include a short little video that I talk about the albums that I had on the wall, taking them down and replacing them with the sort of more Halloween ones if you want to see those, the fronts, the backs, and things, if you want to look any of that stuff up. So just in case that is interesting to you and you want to learn more about that, check out the Stabbing Westward reaction here on my channel. Okay, so on to the Rasmus. For a very long time in my life, I considered the Rasmus to be one of my absolute favorite bands, and I still do consider them to be one of my favorite bands of all time. However, over the years, I feel like I've discovered new bands that have really excited me in different ways than the Rasmus does. And I've discovered bands who I think their catalog is maybe a little bit more consistent throughout, and that I would say that I like a little bit more than them. However, the Rasmus is an incredibly special band to me. One of the very first videos that I uploaded to my YouTube channel many years ago, actually I should check that. I'll check it right now. One of the very first videos I uploaded to my channel was a video called The Evolution of the Rasmus, where at the time, what's the album called? Black Roses? At the time, Black Roses had just come out, and I did a video having like a little clip of each of one song from each of the Rasmus's albums up to that point. And as far as I know, that video is still available on YouTube, and you can go look it up. But I want to check and see what year that came out. Give me one sec. So my very first video I uploaded 14 years ago, and The Evolution of the Rasmus was uploaded 13 years ago. It has 1,000 views on it. Let's see if it still plays. Yep, it does. I uploaded it on December 20th, 2008. So 13 years ago. And wow. Okay, so if you want to check that out on my channel, feel free to do that, or just type in The Evolution of the Rasmus, and it would probably be one of the videos that comes up. But as of right now, it has 1,061 views. So, but anyway, that's just one song from each of the Rasmus's albums. Little clip of it, and then like a picture of the album and saying the year of the album and everything. And the reason I did that was because, to me, the Rasmus is one of those bands, maybe the band that has changed the most over their career. For those of you who are unaware, the Rasmus, when they first started, sounded like this. Now I'm gonna talk about which is considerably different than the music that they make now, which is a lot more electronic, I believe. I should say I haven't heard any of Rise, with the exception of Jezebel, the song I have heard that they used in the Eurovision Song Contest from earlier this year, 2022. So I have heard that song, though I don't think I've listened all the way through to the studio-produced version, like the music video all the way through, because I was hoping that they did that and they gained a lot of popularity and a lot of eyes on them over the last year. I was really hoping that we would get a new album from them, because I believe it's been 5 years since we've had their Dark Matters, I think is what it was called. Dark Matters, yeah, since their last album came out. And their music is a little bit more electronic and stuff now, which that's really awesome with me. I really enjoy Dark Matters a lot. But there was a bit of a chunk of their career where they were sort of like a ska band at the beginning, as you heard in that clip I hopefully was able to play in the video. But then they became a little bit more rock band, and then a little bit more goth rock, goth alternative, and then get it bordering on the edge of metal, honestly, with some of their stuff. And then, you know, they have a really interesting career, I guess is what I'm saying. And so if we take a look at all the albums in their catalog, which I have right here, normally I would go through all this, but I'll just say real quick that Dark Matters is their most recent album, and I really enjoy. Well, you know what? Let's start from the very beginning real quick, and I'll just show you. So their very first album, Peep, I think it's called Peep. For those of you who are unaware with the Rasmus at this time in their career, they started recording this album, I believe, when they were still in high school, I think. And there is even, I believe, their high school choir is on this album, but this is like ska, pop, punk stuff. And this is the album that the very first track is Ghostbusters, which was, I think, a pretty big hit for them at the time, considering that they were like high school or college age. I'm not sure if they were high school or college, but very, very young, as you can tell from looking at them in the pictures here, which I'm not going to be able to probably figure out the lighting situation here. Well, I don't know, but you can look that stuff up if you want on your own time. But very interesting album, and actually I feel better produced and more crisp, clear, clean than their second album, which is, I believe, called Playboys? Yeah, Playboys. But this has the same sort of style, the ska sort of punk stuff. There's a few different heavier, I shouldn't say punk, because there wasn't a lot of punkiness to their to their music. I mean, I suppose a little bit, but there was always these like, interesting ballads, acoustic guitars, funk, a little bit of like maybe soul stuff, but definitely some like funk, ska type thing. Really interesting. And I actually enjoy both of these albums. However, I think I enjoy Playboy's more. However, I believe that it isn't necessarily produced as well as this album. And this might be actually a re-release, but it just says 1996 on it. So, but there's some great songs on here. Great songs on here. I really enjoy Ice. Wicked Moments is really great. There's some really cool distorted drums on this album that they use a lot, like drum loops and things, and I really enjoy that. This album, there's a bunch of good stuff on here, but interesting. I feel like heavier than Peep, so getting a little bit heavier. And then we get to Hell of a Tester, which this is interesting for those of you who've been Rasmus fans forever. I ordered this album. I got this album off the internet many years ago, and it was a used copy, and it came in this blue case. And to me, I've just always assumed that that was an intentional choice by the Rasmus. However, when I look it up online, it looks like it's a regular, colored case. I mean, you don't really see the case in a lot of photos when you look it up online. So let me know in the comments if this is just a crazy case that someone shipped this to me in. But I've kind of just thought for the last 10 years or however long I've had this, that it was meant to be in a blue case. But as far as I know, this is the actual original edition. It says 1998. So yeah. So Hell of a Tester, I feel, is a very fun album. Their first three albums are definitely very fun. I enjoy the production on this a lot. There's some really cool synths and programmed things. They still retain that sort of ska feeling to some of it, but there's a lot of really fun stuff on here. I really love this album a lot, and I think it's actually in my top 4 maybe of their albums. But City of the Dead, Papa, Vibe is really great. Help Me Sing is great. Swimming with the Kids and Man in the Street are 2 of my absolute favorite Rasmus songs across their whole catalog. And I feel like they're so perfect back to back. But I really love Swimming with the Kids. I think it's such a fun song and like the perfect summer song. I really like it. And then Man in the Street is sort of like a more darker getting attempt to. It's much closer in sound, I feel, to what their sound would come to be later on. A little bit darker. Really interesting that they follow each other. I really enjoy this album a lot. So I recommend checking this out. If you want to look up one of their first 3 albums, if you're not familiar with them yet, I recommend Hell of a Tester as a great way to check out their sort of earlier, more ska-based stuff. And funky. This album's very funky. Maybe less ska and more funk. I'm not super familiar with ska, so hopefully I'm saying ska and using, like, the horns is really the thing that I'm thinking of, the use of horns and different instruments like that, but it's a little bit more funky, actually, now that I think about it, but really love this album. This is when they were still known as Rasmus instead of The Rasmus, if you'll notice, and I believe they had maybe some legal issue or something with that, I'm not positive. But then we get to Into, I thought it was Into, which I have the deluxe edition, which has some bonus songs on it. But this is the album where I feel like this is the sort of album that I feel connects the early part of their career to basically the rest of their career. It's definitely more serious. They do still have songs like Falling, which is basically about like being in high school and stuff. And so it still feels maybe a tiny bit, I don't want to say immature, but throughout their entire career, the Rasmus, I feel, have never been known for having their lyrics be these really like deep, emotional lyrics. I feel like they're a little bit more opaque and not necessarily about anything in specific. And for me personally, that's actually one of the reasons that I gravitated towards them and really fell in love with the band, is because I don't necessarily pay attention to lyrics the way that other people do. I don't necessarily look to connect personally with music. I look to connect on an emotional level based on the music, the production, things like that, the entire package, and not necessarily just the message that the song is sending. And so I always really like that aspect of the band. But anyway, this album is fantastic. It's a little bit more of a playful rock album rather than what their music would come. This is definitely before they would be, I guess, consider them like goth. That was definitely their next album, which was their huge breakout hit, Dead Letters. But This album is really fun. It's really interesting. There's some really fun stuff on it. One of my favorite song lyrics of all time is on this album in the song Someone Else, and it's the opening lyric. She drinks the blood of the dinosaur to get her powers back, to make her boyfriend understand. I just absolutely love that. And whenever people post online about, like, give me your favorite lyric or inspiring lyric or whatever, I always post, she drinks the blood of the dinosaur to get her powers back, to make her boyfriend understand, because it's so stupid and it doesn't mean anything, but it also really makes you think, and it's also just like fun, and like I want to see the TV show based off of that, you know? She drinks the blood of the dinosaur to get her powers back, to make her boyfriend understand. Like, there's so much in that. But it's not all silly, you know, there is some good stuff. The song Chill on here is absolutely incredible. I love the guitar riff, and there's sort of like a little bell thing that goes with it. I absolutely love it. The final song on the album, I have the one again with bonus songs on it, but the final song on the original version of the album is Last Waltz, and I love that song. I think it's one of the Rasmus's best songs, and it would fit on their next album, Dead Letters. So there's definitely moments on here that would fit on there and other moments that wouldn't. But there's some nice stuff on here that is, the horns are basically gone entirely from this. So the funky ska part of their band is completely gone. And it's replaced with rock or alt rock, or I don't know what you would call it exactly, but still all of it's very interesting. But this album is, I feel, maybe a little bit more stereotypical rock. There's less crazy things, but there is some piano and stuff like that in there. So they're getting a little bit into the gothy stuff, but not necessarily like leaning super hard into it, which is what they started to do on their absolute breakout album, Dead Letters, which is the first album that I got from them. And I remember being in high school, and I remember hearing Into the Shadows for the first time and thinking, this is very different. Now, at the time, I will say, and even to this day, I don't usually prefer male vocalists that have a higher pitched voice. I much prefer the lower gravelly singers, or if I'm listening to metal or something, I love the growls, the grunts, more so than the high pitched screams. Or, you know, like I Guns N' Roses, for example, I cannot stand Guns N' Roses. I cannot stand the way Axl Rose sings. And there's so many bands that I've tried listening to over the years, like Led Zeppelin or Rush, stuff like that, where I feel like I enjoy the music, but the singer just is too much for me. And when I first heard In the Shadows, I think I kind of dismissed it as being like, oh, I don't really care for the way the singer's voice sounds. And however, I saw the music video several times on MTV2 or whatever it was playing on at the time, maybe Fuse, I don't remember. And I kept being drawn back to it. You know, I really liked the music. I liked the look of everything. I liked the sort of more gothic-y feel to it, the darkness to it. And I really enjoyed all of it, to be honest, with the exception of his vocals. But the more I listened to it, the more I was like, I don't mind it as much. And so I was shopping one day and I found, I don't know if you can see the sticker on here, for $2.99 in a bargain bin somewhere, I found this album. And I bought it, and I brought it home, and I listened to it, and I remember I liked it, but I didn't like it very much. It didn't like blow me away the way I thought it would. And so I, just considered it okay, well, that's an album that I bought, put it on the shelf, didn't really think about it too much. And then I would say my life changed, but that's maybe a little bit dramatic. However, Hide from the Sun, it would be impossible for me to explain to you how much I like this album. Over the last few years, I've been trying to go through in my head and organize somewhat of a list of my favorite albums of all time. And over time, I just very slowly, listen to them all the way through from front to back. And I'm trying to formulate a list in my head to maybe make a video of sometime on my channel here. But this is one of the albums that I come to, like, certainly in my top 4 of all time, maybe my number 1, I don't even know. This is maybe the album that I've listened to the most throughout my lifetime. Now, for just a tiny bit of reference for me, I'm someone who I never, ever, ever, ever listen to an album twice in a row. Ever. to me, sit down, listen to an album. If you listen to it all the way through, that's great. But then put something else different. Cleanse the palate with something else. If you really loved it, come back to it in a few days. And I'm also a strange person in that if I love something, I try to hold off on experiencing it too much. So my favorite movies I've only ever seen a few times, and then every few years I might watch them, and it's this big special occasion, and I try to make it special and meaningful. But this album, I really couldn't do that with. I have listened to this album so much, and just recently I sat down and listened to it all the way through, and it is, in my opinion, a flawless, perfect album. It is a 10 out of 10. I adore the production. I adore the performances. I love every single thing on this album. And the really cool thing is, after finding this album, falling in love with it, then I went back and listened to Dead Letters more, and I appreciated it so much more. And then at that point, that was when I went back into their back catalog, and over the course of however long, a couple years maybe, managed to get everything in their back catalog. So I found this album first, but fell in love with the band on Hide from the Sun. And I found out that they released a deluxe edition of Hide from the Sun that's on a different record label, DRT, whereas this is the one that's on Playground Records, I believe. And so I have the regular edition of this album, and I also have the deluxe edition that has 6 bonus songs. And so you're telling me that there's a deluxe edition of one of my favorite albums of all time that has 6 bonus songs on it? Yes, please. So, absolutely incredible. I could talk about this album for hours. I'm not going to do that here, though, because I want to get to the music. But absolutely adore it. Then we have here, and I'm not sure if this is the exact order of these. What year was this? 2011? Yeah, so this would be after. So then we have the first album that I was aware of as a fan of the Rasmus when it was released new. Black Roses. So I was so excited about this album. I found a deluxe edition of it, which I have. The discs always fall apart when I open it, but I have the deluxe edition with the 2 discs. I absolutely adore this album as well. I feel like it is a great continuation and actually a nice melding of Dead Letters and Hide from the Sun. It's really good production, and I really enjoy all the aspects of it. Living in a world without you. Living in a prayer. Bon Jovi. Living in a World Without You is a fantastic single, and I feel like a hint at what they would try to do a little bit later on, with it being the more electronic-y drums with a little bit of rock thrown in there. More rock than they would certainly have later on with like Dark Matter. But I enjoy this album a lot. The song, the 10 Black Roses, is one of my favorite Rasmus songs, but also like Ghost of Love is really cool, really unique sounding with that whir 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 whir, like really interesting. There's so many good songs on here, but basically the entire album is really good. I don't like it as much as Hide from the Sun, but I don't know if I'll ever enjoy a Rasmus album as much as that. Then I got Laurie's, I believe it's pronounced Laurie, though I could be wrong, his solo album, New World, and this is really an interesting album. It's mostly electronic, and I feel like more what the Rasmus is probably like now, but certainly was more like on Dark Matters. I don't think the songs on this album are really as well written as the other songs on the other albums in their catalog. I mean, I know it's just his solo album, but I don't feel like this is as strong of an album, I guess, songwriting-wise. It probably was just Laurie having fun making the songs himself, working on different electronic things. And I believe he worked with some different people on this album. Now, I see on here as well that the Dynasty Records, or whatever, Dynasty Helsinki Records, that reminds me of the fact that I found the band Quan, which I should have brought my 2 Quan CDs down here, based off of my love for the Rasmus, and so I just have to shout out the band Quan. If you are unfamiliar with Quan, just know that the guitarist Paulie from the Rasmus, he, I think, produced and helped record and also performed on Quan's 2 of Quan's albums, maybe, I think, but they have like 2 fantastic albums, and basically the music sounds just like the Rasmus, but with a male and female singer, and there's a little bit of like more of a hip-hop feel to it. Go check out the band Quan. It's spelled Kwan. Not super easy to find, but if you do find it, I promise you'll enjoy it. Then we have where the Rasmus kind of went back to their roots and created an album that, what year was this? 2012. That is just basically a rock album. I would say it's mostly similar to. It's kind of similar to Dead Letters, but without all the extra stuff. Like, it's mostly just guitar, bass, drums, vocals. So it's very stripped back version of the Rasmus, and I enjoy it, but it's probably one of the albums in their catalog that I enjoy the least, just because I feel like one of the things that I enjoy the most about the Rasmus is everything that's in their songs other than the guitar, bass, drums, vocals. And that's one of the reasons that I enjoy Hide from the Sun so much. And all of their sort of more gothic-y of their albums, and even their earlier stuff as well. Like, for me personally, I always talk about musical sprinkles on my channel here. And what I mean by that is, you can bake a cake, and it is a cake. But when you add the sprinkles, you're adding color, you're adding like a visual appeal to it. And when you make a song, you have the drums, bass, guitar, vocals, and that's the song. But to me, the thing that's the most interesting and the thing that helps separate each song from one another, but can also help tie all the songs together on a singular album to make a single piece of art, is everything that's in the song that you're hearing that's not guitar, drums, bass, vocals. Now, some bands are really good and they can use their instruments and do like overdub tracks and use their instruments in ways that it doesn't necessarily sound like a guitar part, but it is an additional guitar part that's really adding. So I want to make sure that's clear. And the Rasmus has done that before too on a lot of things. But it's the pianos, it's the bells, it's the wedding bells on one of the songs, the first track, I'll Take the Shot for You, from Hide from the Sun. It's the strings that they do with Apocalyptica and stuff, like on Dead Promises and certain other things. It's the addition of all the things in the songs that you wouldn't necessarily take on the road with you. And it's the things that some bands are afraid to put in their songs because they can't take them on the road with them. And I understand if you're a smaller, younger band and you just want to go out and tour and play your songs live. But to me, I always say you should leave everything in the studio, and the Rasmus is one of those bands that does that. They're never afraid to put something in a song, and I really appreciate that. And so one of the reasons I love them so much is all the things that are in their songs that aren't guitar, bass, drums, vocals. And this album, for the most part, which I think is just their self-titled, this album doesn't really have a lot of those things. It's much more stripped back. But at this point in their catalog, it made sense for them to make an album like this, and I actually really enjoy it for what it is. But like I said, I consider it to be one of their weaker albums. And then we have a big break. I think the longest break between anything that they released. 2012 to 2017, I think, is when this came out. Yeah, 2017 for Dark Matters. Now, I have I don't know if I think there's several different versions of this that have like bonus songs that they released after the fact that are included on the album, but I don't have that. I do have one bonus track. So there's 11 tracks on my version, and it's Supernova. This album I really like. I think it's maybe one of the strongest in their catalog in terms of consistency. I enjoy electronic music, and I enjoy that kind of thing, but I could understand how someone who's a fan of the Rasmus because of Dead Letters wouldn't necessarily care for this as much, because every song is basically just, well, for the most part, the same drum beat, just pretty much, and it's just electronic drums, huge kick, very electronic sounding, huge snare, very clearly samples, not a real drum kit. Maybe they were actually played on an electronic drum kit or played on a real kit and then replaced, but it basically sounds like pop music, for sure. And I enjoy it. I think that there's a lot of really cool melodies on this album. There's almost no guitar really on the entire album. There's a few songs that do, and then what's the song? Wonder Man. It sounds completely different than the rest of the songs on the album, but that song is absolutely fantastic. And honestly, I really like everything on here. There's little moments of like dubstep-y type of stuff, or maybe not dubstep, but more like trap stuff almost, where there's like clearly the beat is like the chorus of the song, or the refrain of the song is like the beat comes in and it's like this really cool moment. I love it. I think it's great. And so now we're to this new album, Rise. And I just read on their wiki page that it is a continuation, like a part 2 kind of, if you will, of their album, Dark Matters. And so I'm assuming that we're going to get a lot of electronic stuff here, and I'm totally fine with that. I also, having heard Jezebel, know that that song basically sounds like it could have been on Dark Matters. So there's not a lot of rock sound to it whatsoever. I also know, obviously from having seen them in Eurovision, that I believe their guitarist, Paulie, who was one of the founding members of the band, and one of the primary songwriters of the band as well, I'm pretty sure, left the band, and he was replaced with, I believe, a lady named Amelia. And I saw her in the Eurovision Song Contest. Seems like she's really awesome. She looks really great while she's playing and stuff. And so I believe all of that helped the Rasmus probably, move forward in the contest. I will say about the song, and I'm excited to see what the album sounds like, and I'm excited to see how much guitar there is on it. Not because they have a new guitarist, but if these songs were written more by Laurie or the other members of the band, including Amelia, and I hope I'm saying that right, and I hope I'm remembering it correctly, but I think it was Amelia. But I'm hoping that, well, I'm not hoping, I'm just curious to see what the songs are like. If they're a continuation of Dark Matters, I don't expect there to be much guitar at all. But who knows? They might have more guitar on this album because, people saw them performing as a rock band, and maybe they had a lot of this stuff recorded during the pandemic. I'm not sure. So maybe some of these songs were recorded before Paulie even left. I really don't know. If this whole album was created after they were in the Eurovision Song Contest as a way to sort of capitalize on the popularity and the eyes that were on them, then I don't really know what to expect. Based on everything I've just said, though, about their whole catalog, you can be pretty sure that I think I'm going to like it regardless. I will say I didn't care for Jezebel that much. I feel like the song was definitely a Rasmus. It sounds like the Rasmus. The specific line about Jesus on the cross, I always found kind of weird. Like, I didn't necessarily understand why that lyric is in the song. And it's kind of interesting. It's weird imagery, and I never looked into it or anything because I didn't want to know too much about the song or the band at this point in their career, because I want to just kind of, react to the album pretty cold, not knowing that much about what they're doing now. And I don't know anything about Eurovision, I should say. I'm very unfamiliar with Eurovision, so I don't know that much about it at all. I'm aware of the contest, and I think that it's one of the coolest ideas out there, and I think that I would enjoy watching it. And I know a lot of people dislike the music and stuff, and there's a lot of politics that go into it as far as I understand. But I don't know if any of that stuff would bother me at all. I think it's just kind of interesting to see what would get voted to represent an entire country. I think that's such an interesting idea. I know that in the past, Tattoo, who was a band that I absolutely love and hold dear to my heart, they were selected to represent Russia, I believe, once. And I don't think that they got very far. I did look, and the Rasmus did finish at 21st, so I don't know how many countries that's out of, but I think that's actually pretty good. And I know that they got to perform on the big stage and stuff, so that was really cool. So again, I don't know that much about the contest, so I can't really talk about that, but I know that they did a good job. I know that their performance was really cool. They were one of the bands that I performed live. I did look at some of the other people that performed in the year, and I looked up some compilation videos, and certainly they stood out to me from a lot of the other songs. So, that seems like they did a good job as far as I can tell. I don't know how good Finland usually does in the contest, but yeah, I don't know that much about it. And I don't know how good rock bands usually do, but again, it wasn't a very rock song. It was more of an electronic song, but they were all up there playing their rock instruments, so, So yeah, that brings us to this album. I'm really excited. I saw that it was 10 songs, and I wish it was more, but we'll see what happens. I haven't looked at the length of the songs or anything yet, but we're 35 minutes into the video, so let's get into this. First, I always do this in my videos. Look here on my table, and I'll be right back with you in a second. So if you've watched my channel before, you know that I usually drink a pop or a soda pop during my videos, usually a Mountain Dew because it's my favorite. But this time I'm just going to drink a bottle of water, and I had it in the freezer for a little bit, so I don't know if you can tell this, but it's kind of icing. It actually looks really cool. There's crystals in the water. I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, it's really cool. Hopefully it's not super annoying. If I drink from the bottle during the video, I don't know. might just set it off to the side, and if I need it, I'll take a drink. And I know you don't really care, but if you're going to listen to the album with me, you know, maybe grab a drink, grab a snack, as Natalie Gold would say. But let's get into this. I've got to find it. Now, while I'm getting this all set up, I will say, my headphones here, I have an additional cable here that I have to use in order to get them to work properly. Well, I say properly, but this extra cable here, actually, it reverses the stereo image. It's not supposed to do that, but it's just a cheap cable that I got off of Amazon. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I don't know how long that was. I just looked over and my microphone was flashing, which means I hit the solo button. So I have no clue how much you've missed there. I assume since I went over here. So I'll just say, that's hilarious. I might have to leave that in the video because that's very funny. But I'll go back and say, I don't even know what I was saying now. Totally lost my train of thought here completely. Now I got to get a drink. Now I'm all flustered. Everybody watching this video, I'm flustered. Just swallowed a spike of ice. Woo! Great. Okay. Let's get to this. Live and Never Die by the Rasmus. I'm looking at the lengths of the songs, and I'm happy to say that they're all over 2 minutes. People have been writing such short songs recently, and they look like they're all about 3.5, maybe a little less than 3.5. The last track is 5 minutes long, called Evil. That's really cool. So let's go. Live and Never Die by the Rasmus, 2022. Let's do it. Okay. Really interesting sound to start with. Okay, we got a little synth part there. Ooh, I like that synth sound a lot. A little bit of an 80s feel there. Whoa, guitar! We have guitar riffs here, people. Yes. Oh my, this sounds awesome. Oh my God, this is awesome. Yes. Oh, listen to that bass go. This is great. Oh, this is great. Love that nice big synth pads there, like with a little bit of a vocal patch. Laurie sounds absolutely amazing, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Laurie. Yes. Yes. Love it. And now there's definitely some like synth patches or something that almost sounds like brass in there with the stabs of the guitar. That's great. So now we have some palm muted delayed guitar off to the side. Actually, it might be doubled and panned wide. Sounds really good. Some swooshing sounds. Actually hear the cymbals a little bit. There, the snare comes in, that's nice. Synth pads again. I'm so shocked. I'm so surprised. This is great. I didn't think it was going to be bad. I just wasn't expecting it. And the whoa parts sounds like it might be some of the other people in the band doing it, which is really great. I love it when other band members help do background vocals. That's great. And in the chorus here, Laurie has, again, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. The vocalist has an additional vocal in there. He's doing like a harmony vocal with him, maybe even more. Yes, some hey gang vocals. And the Rasmus throughout their career, they've used gang vocals a lot. They have ohs and oohs and ahs and things throughout their albums, and also gang shouts as well. So that's really great. Guitar solo. Yes. Yes, I wouldn't have guessed a guitar solo. They have some really great guitar solos on some of their songs. Not Like the Other Girls particularly stands out to me as one of their most metal songs, like a metal ballad with a great guitar solo. Yeah! Yeah, there's definitely like big synths in there. But I hear the guitars as well. I love it. Yeah! One thing I will say before, I hate it. I cannot stand it. It's a thing on my channel. I cannot stand it when songs fade out. So I really hope none of the songs on this album fade out. The Rasmus has faded songs out on their albums before, but oh, great. Fantastic. I love it. Fantastic. Track 2, Rise. This is great. Yes. Oh, that just sounds like a Rasmus riff. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. Oh, love it.
When the days grow cold.
What? Some strings? Oh, and those are real strings. Cellos? This could be a... I did read that I think maybe Apocalyptica did something with them. That would be them then. And his voice sounds perfect. Love it. We have harmonized guitar part there, I think. The guitar sounds fantastic. Bass sounds great. Drums sound great. Vocals sound perfect. They got some nice effects on the vocals there, some delays at the end of the phrase. And I love the riff. It almost reminds me of Time to Burn, which is one of my all-time favorite Rasmus songs as well, from Dead Letters. Oh, and the strings here sound great. And it does sound like cellos, a little cello section. And his voice just sits so perfectly on top of the mix. Oh. It just sounds like a Rasmus song. That's so great. I can't tell you. It just is special. I didn't think it was going to sound bad. I didn't think that it was going to be boring or anything, but I guess I wasn't prepared for it. I don't know. This is great. Love the riff. Love it. Oh my gosh. His vocals just sound so great. Black Roses. That's one of the other things I was going to say. Like, the Rasmus does these little things that might go unnoticed by people, but I feel like they connect songs, they connect their albums, there's themes that flow throughout, they do callbacks musically, there's these little special things that are really gratifying when you notice and you find them, and they're kind of spread out throughout their entire career. They really are a special band. This is great though. Love the riff. Love it. Little guitar thing going on there. Wow. Oh. Very cool piano. Ticking clock. This is adding a lot of atmosphere. This is great. That's so cool. Now I gotta buy this CD. I mean, I was gonna probably get the CD at some point if I could find it relatively for less than $32, but man, this is awesome. Okay, Fireflies. Oh, love it. That all sounds like vocals for the most part, pitch shifted and messed with. Oh my gosh. I love his voice. It's EQ'd. I don't know if it's a combination of the mic and the compression or what, but like, it just feels a particular way. It feels very intimate and close, but it doesn't feel... Sorry, I'm trying to get my leg under the table. Dude, the guitars sound massive. Nice palm-muted guitars here. The snare, you can tell it's real drums. You can tell it's real drums. Oh, there's the bell, like I said. Whoa, do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Awesome, with a little bit of a wah there, some flange. Whoa. Whoa. That distorted, like, sub-bass thing. And now we got, like... Wow. I'm shocked. I'm shell-shocked by how incredible this is. Nice background vocals here, nice harmonies. Almost sounds a bit like a choir. Oh, the guitars sound fantastic. And the mix of the guitars and the bass. Whoa. I don't know what that sound was. It sounded like a baby or something weird. Nice. We have a little bit of a background part that's additional melody in there. Love that. Very cool. Electronic part there. Synth, a harsh synth. Whoa! All that additional percussion things, that ticka ticka, tick 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 tick. Very cool. What is that? Like a whistle. And there's all sorts of little noodly things going on, and I love it. And that bell sound, I heard at the beginning, yes. Like I mentioned it at the beginning, or in the chorus of I'll Take the Shot for You. The Shot, I think it's called, or just maybe Shot, from Hide from the Sun, first track. Wow. Dang. Be Somebody. Starting right now. So, okay, some vocal pitch harmonics, like some harmonics. A lot of distortion on like something that's swirling too.
Today's the 1st of November. I'll never finish this movie. Another night within these walls.
Oh, nice vocoder in there. Very cool. Pretty ominous. That bass part's really cool. And now we have a pitch, palm muted on the higher strings. That tick, 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 tick. Shaker, really nice. Very present. But you might not necessarily notice that. I mean, you can notice it, but like, if that wasn't in there, the song would feel like it wasn't moving as much. Very nice. Everything sounds very close, very... Yep, that bell's back too, I think. Or I hear some sort of a bell. what interesting sounds. You know, that sounds like a guitar with some interesting reverb on it, some spring reverb or cavernous reverb or something, but it was panned in the middle, mono. But it didn't necessarily really sound like a guitar. I'm pretty sure it was a guitar, but very cool. We've got lots of layers of things going on here, but everything is its own like frequency layer, so everything's sitting nicely where it's supposed to. You can hear Laurie's vocals in the middle very nicely. The background vocals spread wide, the harmony vocal and stuff. Drums sound great here. Guitar's high here, you know, not a big crunchy chorus, more of a droning sort of chorus. Little guitar lead in there now, very nice. Massive drums. Little guitar solo? No. Okay, went back into the chorus. All right. Really great sounding. That bell in there, love that too. No bands really use like a church bell sound. Now I'm excited to get to Jezebel because I feel like sonically it's very different from this, but maybe I'm just remembering it incorrectly, or maybe they re-recorded it for this. I could just be misremembering what it sounds like, though. But this is great. The guitars are so tasty. So tasty. Love it. Lots of great delays and things, but nothing's too wet. Everything is... Okay, Odyssey. Super excited. This is a little bit of a shorter, 2:49. Starting out with this nice electronic sounds. I love that sound, whatever that is. Just some sort of like a harsher synth. A lot of reverb. Could be a weird guitar patch, too. I don't think so, though. Nice. Guitar part coming in, arpeggiated broken chord. Guitar part, very nice. Nice. Ooh, I love the twangy guitar, always. A lot of tremolo on there, very nice. And there's multiple parts going too. Harmony part, totally. Very nice. It's a ballad, that's very awesome. The Rasmus have always done such fantastic ballads. I really enjoy a lot of their ballads. Not really, like, ballads usually aren't my favorite songs on albums, but they have such good ones. Whoa! Like a bit of like an orchestral type of thing here. Not necessarily orchestral, but movie soundtracky sounding here. And then the guitar part in there. Distorted, much more distorted than it was a while ago. Very nice. That sound is back that was there at the beginning. What a cool chorus. Very cool. The sounds being used here. I hear some like almost like filter sweeps almost. Maybe a little bit of slow flanging or chorusing effect. Very cool though. So that song was really only 2 minutes and 30 seconds long, and then we get a little bit of an outro thing here, but that's really cool. It still had enough time to go through verse, chorus, and then basically chorus. Really nice. Loved it. Great ballad. Fantastic ballad. All right, we're now to Jezebel. All right, here we go. It's the big song. Starting with the guitar. Nice little guitar riff. Palm muted guitar as well, kind of in the middle range of the guitar.
Midnight, it's time to put your face on. Game set, a killer shot in heels.
Nice. Like almost just the guitar part there off to the side, almost more of a sound effect rather than a guitar part. Interesting chordal change there. Yeah! This is way rockier than I remember. And it just sounds like a Rasmus riff in the background there. That's great. You know what? Maybe Whoa, great strings. Maybe I never actually did go and listen to the studio version of this. Wow, this is awesome. I don't think maybe I didn't listen to the studio version of this ever. This just sounds fantastic. Background vocals are great. Pretty sure that sounds like someone in the band other than Lori. Yanni. Lori. I really hope I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. I look like an idiot the whole time every time I say his name. I apologize. Great little guitar solo here. Sounds perfect. You know, I love the way this is all mixed. Like the kick, the snare, and the vocals are really loud, so that makes it feel a bit more poppy regardless of what's happening. But everything is mixed so well. Yep. Love the drum beat too, that very cool. It just sounds fantastic. How long is this album? 10 songs, 36 minutes. I'm so shocked at how fantastic this is. I just was not prepared for this. I didn't expect them to make a rock album, and they 100% are. I love it. Fantastic. Amazing mix. This is Endless Horizon, starting right now. I love these little vocal things in there. It makes it feel very contemporary with the little vocal manipulation things in a couple of the songs we've heard. Ooh. Yeah, maybe acoustic guitar strumming in there a little bit, maybe not. The guitar sounds massive, but not overbearing. There's like a very subtle in there. Awesome. It just sounds like all the Rasmus's stuff put together. I love it. You hear the snare drum in there with that whatever that is. Wow. Now that we have stuff on the sides, then a rim shot, or actually like hitting it on the rim. Big bass sound here. Yes. Love all the, again, it's like I was saying earlier, like, I love everything that I'm hearing that's not guitar, bass, drums, vocals. But on this album so far, I really love everything that I've heard from the guitar, bass, drums, vocals as well. So that's really great. And that's the case for most of the stuff in their career, but man, this is really great. I don't know why I wasn't expecting it to be the Rasmus for some reason. Even on Dark Matters, which sounds so different sonically, it still felt like them, but this feels much more like the Rasmus from, you know, from Dead Letters era, maybe even a little bit of an influence from before, but it also feels new too. It feels modern. It feels like there's modern things thrown into every song. It absolutely feels like a wonderful evolution of the band, but also a bit of a callback to the more rock sound as well. It's so good. All the background vocals are great, big sounding, but not overpowering, mixed into the mix perfectly. Like this song, I feel like there's a lot of subtle things happening, which are really great. A lot of vocal layering here, very nice. Some distorted vocals in there, which really separate it sonically from the rest of everything, so you can really hear that in there. That bell's back again. And the vocals here are a little very whispery, which is nice. Lots of air in them. Really great. Really great song. Very nice. A bit more subtle than the rest of the songs. We're getting to Clouds now, starting right now. Interesting that in between each track there's 3 seconds of silence. That's very interesting. I didn't know Spotify did that, or could do that. Oh. Sounds very different. Love that very dry. Paul muted again, I think, or it could be. Very clean sounding guitar, but played lower on the guitar. Another ballad, I think. And those rim shots or whatever they are, rim clicks, those clicks, very nice in the middle, allowing those guitars to be on the outsides. Bass just very nice in the middle. Bass feels very massive, almost maybe like there's some reverb on it or something. Love that Paul muted there, distortion, but not overbearing, not heavy. Subtle, but still present. I can smell lunch cooking. It smells really good. Ooh, very subtle. Ooh. Oh, very cool, very airy, but that's awesome because it's clouds too. That bell's back. Wonder if they would have a bell with them while they tour and then have someone hit that. Or the drummer could have the bell sitting there next to him, some sort of a pipes of some kind. This is great. This is awesome. Again, it's interesting. Everything is being played so subtly, but it's loud, mixed loudly, but not intensely. Love that. This is such fantastic mixing compared to that Editor's EBM album I listened to yesterday that just ruined my whole day. This is so nice, so refreshing. Now, that song I felt didn't really have a chorus, which was interesting. It just kind of built and then kind of fell off. Written in Blood. Right now. Ooh, I love that. All right, all right, all right, here we go. Okay, I was expecting maybe a bit heavier, but still good. Like it. I'm glad we're getting a bit of more of a rock song here towards the end. And I don't know what the last track is going to be since we just had a bit more of a ballady one there. Could be a big ballad, could be maybe more strings, could be a big more epic song. I don't know. Love it. A lot of palm muting. I love the use of the guitar throughout the album. Really clever, but also a bit of a formula that they have going that's really nice. I enjoy it. Yeah. The hi-hat here really... This song feels a little bit more raw. Like there's less production thrown into it. That bell is back. I'm telling you. They gotta have a bell with them on stage when they perform. Maybe it's this giant thing and the vocalist goes and hits it. Love this. Great little vocal lead, or guitar lead here. Again, this one just feels much less produced than the other songs, I would say. More raw, more like they were just in the studio performing the song. I would say that it feels maybe slightly less quality-wise as well, but it's kind of okay, you know? Like, the drums don't sound the same, the bass definitely doesn't sound the same as it has the whole time. But it does still sound good. You know, if we had a whole album that sounded just like this, I would still be happy, I think. I feel like his vocals would sound much different here, too. That probably recorded at a different time, this song, I would guess. Ooh, a key change there. I see there's not much time left in the song, and I really it's not that bad, but I really dislike it when a song just kind of verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, and then just kind of farts its way out and doesn't really conclude at all or go back to the chorus a third time. That's kind of a bummer to me. But okay, Evil. Coming up, last track. That previous track was a bit of a bummer, starting right now. Okay, we got this, a nice long 5-minute song. We'll see what they're going to do at the time. We got some really cool vocal patches going here. Love that low. Yeah. Yes, love it. Love that's very ominous. I turned it up because I'm digging it. Yeah, we're back to the production of the beginning of the album, kind of. Love it. The Rasmus always have such great album closers. Nice piano in the back there, I hear, kind of going with the roots of what's the movement. Love that siren, almost siren. It's awesome when it's there, and then when it goes away, it's almost jarring. Very cool. I want a big chorus here. Love that guitar there. interesting. It almost sounds like water or fire or something in there. Some kind of like a... Love it. Okay, a big choir sound. Definitely real vocals mixed in there with it, I think. Love it, that digital synth. Real synth, real bass though, I think too. Really weird. Love it though. Are we gonna get the bell in this song? I think that's what we want to refer to it as. Maybe a chime. Okay, there. That it almost sounds like someone flipping through a book or something bubbling. It's very weird. Yeah. Big, massive, love it. Just exactly what I wanted. Okay, we got a guitar part in there now, guitar lead part. Kind of reminiscent of the guitar part from the previous song. Big feeling here. What's it gonna do? Love these vocal parts, very cool. Yeah, I hear some drums in the back there, but everything is low it's like filtered to scoop everything out. Okay, now they brought back snared marching snare in there, very nice. This could be Apocalyptica again, or some cello or something in there. The chorus, I believe. Very pretty. Very ominous, though, at the same time. Love those big hits in there. Mostly electronic sounds, I believe, not acoustic or anything like that. I really want them to go to the chorus again, but I don't think they're going to. It's going to just kind of wither and die, huh? Really cool step down here. And that's a bummer. Really big bummer there. Man, the last half... Clouds and Evil really felt too short to me. Really big bummer here. And even though in Evil here... Hold on, I guess I'll let it finish. I love this kind of thing. And then it's going to kind of wind down. Ooh, wow. Okay. Well, there we have... there we have Rise by the Rasmus. A total surprise. It was a rock album. Totally shocked me. It's I feel like it started off really strong, and then it got to the middle point, and there was a nice little ballad, and then there was maybe a song that I didn't necessarily feel as much. I felt like the chorus was a little bit thinner than I wanted it to be. Then there were a couple high points, and then we got to the Cloud song, and I really enjoyed what that song did, but it felt too short to me. I really would have liked it to go back to the chorus one more time to feel like it was a complete song rather than some sort of like an intermission type of thing or a song leading into something. Then the next track was the song that I said sounded very different from the rest of the songs on the album, the penultimate song on the album there. It sounded like it was recorded at a whole different session, but it still sounded really good. That song sounded more raw. It sounded more like a band just performing a song. There were much less production elements done to that song, and everything was felt like it was a little bit less produced. But I think it still sounded okay. And then the last song sounded fantastic. Very cool elements to it. Really interesting and different stuff going on. But again, it felt like it ended about a third too early. And I do know that they did go to the chorus there, I think. And then the song, like the first verse, then a chorus, then the second verse. And it all kind of felt about the same level of dynamics there. And then it started to build really big, and we got this big, huge second chorus. And then the song kind of got a little bit bigger. The guitar lead came in, it played. And then it felt like it was kind of doing like a bit of an outro thing. And I was like, dang it, I want them to go back. So then the whole song kind of settled. Everything took a breath. And then the chorus was repeated one more time slowly. And then it kind of felt like it was tapering off, and it did. It just tapered off, and there were some sound effects the last minute of the song. So a big bummer to me, because I would have really liked them to build that back up and do the chorus one more time. I'll never forget watching the DVD that comes with Black Roses. Is that the name of the album? Yeah, Black Roses. Watching the DVD that comes with Black Roses and hearing them talk about their producer they were working with at the time, who I forget who it was, but they were working with someone, and they had the song 10 Black Roses written, and they had it all kind of structured out, and then the singer, the producer was like, well, why don't we repeat the chorus one more time? Let's let the song go down for the bridge a little bit and then come back in with the chorus one more time. And they were all like, yeah, that's a good idea, let's try it. And they did it, and they loved it. And I always remember that, because I remember thinking, like, to me, that should be the natural way you do it. And I know I talk on my channel a lot here about song structuring, and I am a very big stickler for traditional song structuring. I love nothing more than a song that has an intro, verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro. I would be totally happy if all songs in the world written from now until the end of the time were structured that way. Now, you can add extra things in the middle there. You can add any sort of extra, a song like Ghost Love Score by Nightwish. Hugely famous. My favorite videos online to watch are people reacting to that song. A song which I've considered to be in my top 10 favorite songs since I first heard it way back in the early 2000s. And that song is structured like intro, verse 1, or intro, then sort of secondary intro, then verse 1, then verse 2, then chorus, then verse 3, then chorus, then who knows what the next part is, followed by a secondary part of a secondary version of that part, then a guitar solo, then like a 2 to 3 minute intermission in the middle of the song that then builds up to this amazing bombastic part, and then a more operatic part, and then a more aggressive part, and then a very dancey folk part, and then my point I'm making is there's all these extra parts, but eventually it comes back to the chorus. They do the chorus a third time, then there's the outro, which unfortunately that song does fade out, which is a huge bummer to me, and the only thing keeping that song from being the greatest song of all time. But I prefer to have songs feel resolved and complete. I know some people, I mentioned it earlier in the video, I never listen to the same album twice in a row. I never, ever, ever do it. I don't want to do that. I want to listen to an album and have it feel like it was a full meal, and I want to be satisfied when I'm done with it. I don't want to be left wanting more. And I can say the exact same thing about every individual song on an album too. I want every song to feel like it completed itself. We went on the entire journey that song was trying to take us on. And when it's time to move on to the next song, I love it when songs transition into another song. I think that's really cool. But that when bands do those sorts of things, it makes it feel more like the entire album is considered one piece of art. This wasn't that. This was definitely each individual song being their own thing, and there were many elements and things that came in, and like that bell that I kept mentioning, or that chime, whatever it was, in a majority of the songs on this album. I loved that. So I guess the one of the negatives I would say is that I feel like some of the songs definitely left me wanting, and to have a 36-minute long album means your songs were pretty short to begin with, because there's 10 of them. If there was 12 songs on this album, I definitely would have felt a lot better about it, even if those extra 2 songs were a little bit shorter. And I was reading on Wikipedia, I think, before this, that they released a couple songs like a couple years ago, and I don't think those songs that they released were on this album, so maybe in the future we will get a deluxe edition of this. I don't know. If they do, it'd probably be very minimal. They probably wouldn't print it physically. It'd probably only be digital, which would be very disappointing to me. But let's stop talking about the negatives. Those are the few negative things. I do think the album was a little short, and I think the reason for that is some of the songs, particularly those 2 I mentioned, the last one and then Clouds, felt very short and unfinished to me. But that's enough of the negative stuff. I was blown away by the production on this, the guitar playing specifically, only because I was sort of preemptively expecting a guitar or an album with very little, if not almost no guitars, which is very much how I felt about Dark Matters. There's very little guitar on that album, and what's there is really nothing to speak of. That album is much more of a beat-oriented, drum and bass and vocal oriented album, and I enjoyed that album. Again, I'm not saying that that's a negative thing. I just was expecting it to feel more electronic. Instead, it was way more rock than I anticipated. There were like 4 or 5 guitar parts flying around the songs at any given time, and I really loved that. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about not being afraid to leave everything in the studio. You can only, if you only have one guitar player in your band, and that guitar player can only play one guitar part at any given time during a performance. And so I would assume live she will probably just play relatively simple, chunky stuff when it gets to the choruses and things, but there was a lot more intricate stuff done on this album, and I don't know for sure if she played on the album or if it was Paulie before he left the band. It depends when a lot of this was recorded, but I'm gonna assume that it was probably her. But I loved it. I thought all the guitar riffs very much evoked past Rasmus songs. And maybe some of the guitar parts were written by the other members of the band too. I'm not saying that, she could have written it all, I'm not positive, but it was probably a collaborative effort. But it very much had the Rasmus sound, and I love that. Sometimes when a new person joins a band, the sound of the band changes, and sometimes that can be really good, and sometimes that can be a little bit to the detriment of the band. And after hearing and enjoying Jezebel being performed live, I thought, oh, this sounds like a Rasmus song, but it sounded a little bit more poppy, like they were intentionally trying to do certain things. With the performance and the way they looked on stage and everything was clearly meant to be like, hey, look at us and please like us. And I think Laurie didn't even have a shirt on, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. The vocalist didn't really even have a shirt on and stuff, and he looked great and everything. And I just remember thinking, like, watching it, like, oh, they're very clearly trying to appeal to the masses here. But hearing Jezebel on the album, I would say it was maybe even the best song on the album. Like, it shocked me. I don't remember there being all those cool layers of guitars and everything in it. And then when I was listening to the song, I thought, maybe I never even heard the studio version of this, and I really only listened to the live tracks and stuff. I remember when they first released it, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to listen to this because I want to wait for there to be an album. So I do remember specifically thinking that. But the first few songs, though, blew me away. I loved track 1. All the background vocals, I've said it before on all my videos. I think one of the least appreciated aspects of all music is overdubbed vocals, background vocals, gang vocals, chorus vocals, shout vocals, things like that. I think they can make or break an album. And by break an album, I mean if they're not there at all, an album can feel too sparse. What was the album I just listened to recently? Stabbing Westward. There were almost no vocal overdubs the entire album. However, those songs were structured, and Christopher Hall, the singer for Stabbing Westward, which if you're a fan of Rasmus and you don't know who Stabbing Westward is, just go look them up and listen to any album on their catalog, but specifically Darkest Days. And their most recent album is actually really great too, so check that one out. But I think people who are fans of the Rasmus would really enjoy Stabbing Westward. But on that whole album, Chasing Ghosts, their most recent album, there's almost no vocal overdubs, and I didn't mind it because his voice is enough to carry. And I'm not saying that Laurie's vocals on the Rasmus album, if there was only one vocal line throughout the whole album, I would have been disappointed, because throughout their whole career, Rasmus has definitely had lots of vocal layering going on to it, and I enjoyed that aspect of the songs. And so I'm glad that they included that here. But I'm not saying that he couldn't carry a whole album just by himself. He absolutely could. But I loved all the vocals and everything they were doing. There were several songs that I specifically noticed more like gangy or shout vocals in the background that were done by other members of the band, I think. Really enjoyed that. I think that really helps set those songs apart, and that vocal part apart from the lead vocals. I think all the vocal melodies were really good. There was that one song where I was a little unimpressed with the chorus, but I think to me that'll be maybe one song that I go back to when I listen to this album in the future a few times, and that might be a song that grows on me each time. I'm also hoping that last song in Clouds, if I listen to it in context with the rest of the album a few more times, that I'll enjoy it more. You know, I really liked the stuff that sounded electronic on the album, and they did a fantastic job mixing those sort of like electronic elements that to me sounded like something that could have been on Dark Matters. The like vocal manipulation things, the little loops of things here and there, the interesting like distorted synths and things like that really felt very unique. There were unique sounds. Those things were mixed in very like perfectly with the very raw and the raw feeling acoustic elements and the electric guitars. You know, the bass. I guess maybe acoustic elements not the right way to say it. The performed elements, the guitar, the bass, the drums, and the vocals. I think the drums sounded fantastic throughout. I'm sure that they were recorded really well, and then probably the drums were not necessarily replaced, but overdubbed and stuff for the kick and the snare. The kick for sure. But it did sound great, and you could hear the drum sounds. You could hear the room in the drums, and I loved that. The guitars were all recorded really well. There were some really nice, beefy sounding, like palm-muted guitar parts that were really nice and heavy, but not necessarily overly intense. Loved that. The bass sounded fantastic the whole time. You know, I've been paying attention to bass a little bit more on albums recently, and it's really nice to be able to have a bass guitar that you can hear, although when you're listening to it, you can probably tell, like, oh, there's also, like, synth bass and things happening here to get more of that, like, that sub-bass tone and things. I've been working on my own music recently, a big project that I've been working on for a long time now, and I'm sort of in the final stages of it, and going back through, some of the songs have like synth bass and electronic bass parts and things, and those songs felt much beefier, and they felt like the low end was much more well managed because there were sub frequencies in there as well. And so for some of the songs that felt thinner, what I actually did was I went back through and I programmed a synth bass part that had no high frequencies to it whatsoever, just a very low sounding pitches that were still clear enough that you could tell to differentiate the pitches and everything. And basically overdubbing the entire bass guitar track that I played on a bass guitar sounded great, but there wasn't enough beefy sub frequencies to it. So having that additional layer of that sub bass, that synth sub bass that I programmed into the song, in my opinion, makes it sound much more professional and much more rounded, and it fits those songs now fit on the album much more with those more electronic songs that I made that did already have like synth bass and synth kicks and things that had more sub frequencies to them. And so I'm sure that was done on this album. And probably most professional things that you hear, that's done to. That's how you have such nice low frequency response and low frequency the mixing engineers taking care of the low frequencies, because you can do that a lot more when you have those subsonic frequencies rather than just the sort of mid to low frequencies that a bass guitar has in it. Now, of course, if you have the money and the equipment and the studio and everything to record a bass really well, which a lot of bass is just a bass plugged direct in to the recording, the console or whatever. I guess what I'm saying is I think the bass was done really well on the album. I think a couple of the songs I was listening to, and it sounded a tiny bit muddy, and I felt like it was lacking a little bit in the high frequencies, like the higher end, like high definition stuff. I was talking in my video I recorded yesterday that when you have a person talking into a microphone, the definition that you're hearing in the in the sound, a lot of that comes from the high frequencies, which is why when something sounds muffled or muddied, when you just block the microphone or block, it sounds like something is in front of something. And the album I listened to yesterday, the EBM by the Editors, the entire album sounded like every single track had something in front of it. And it sounded very garbled and muddy and mid-rangey. And this album did not sound like that at all. I did not hear a ton of like crispy high frequencies. There were some songs that had more in there than others, and there were a couple, I think 2 songs on the album, I can't remember which, that I specifically remember thinking like, oh, okay, the chorus is here, it feels a little bit bigger, but it also feels like it's not as big as it could be because a little bit of that high frequency definition was gone. And that could happen due to mastering, and that could also be an intentional mixing choice as well, but usually that's more of a mastering thing. I would say the album was mastered really well, particularly if some of the songs were recorded at a different time or from a different session, and that can sound sonically very different from the other songs on the album that sounded like they had more production to them and definitely had more oomph to them. It's hard to master stuff like that when everything is sounding like it's coming from a different place. It's almost like when you're mastering an album like that, you're mastering a compilation album, which is much more difficult to do than 10 songs that were recorded all at the same time with relatively the same sort of sonic landscape, I guess. It's different when everything sounds like it's coming from a different place. It's a little tougher to master something like that. You have to approach it differently. So I think the mastering was done really well. Basically, I think the whole album was done fantastically well. I just was shocked. If you were watching me listen to those first 3 songs, I just was in a state of shock because I wasn't anticipating it being a rock album. I was thinking it was going to be an electronic album. And so I was so shocked that I don't even know if I fully appreciated those first 3 tracks, though I'm pretty sure I did, especially that first one. I loved it. And Rise, the second track, had the cello section, which I'm pretty sure was Apocalyptica, the guys from Apocalyptica playing on it, which sounded fantastic. And then the last track on the album, I believe, had that as well. So that was fantastic. Loved that. Again, it all comes down to, not all, but a lot of it comes down to the things that are in the songs that aren't guitar, bass, drums, vocals. However, I do feel like the production on the guitar, bass, drums, vocals on this album was special enough that everything sounded so intimate and close, but it wasn't necessarily dry. Usually the closer you get to something, the more you hear the imperfections in that particular sound. With the mouth, you can hear things moving and you can get a lot more and stuff the closer you get. So you typically want to be a little bit further away with certain things. But the closer you mic something, the more close something sounds, the more intimate it can sound. So sometimes you hear people singing and they're so close to the microphone and they're singing soft and they're barely hitting those notes that are hard to do. And that's when singing becomes very... the quieter you sing, the harder it is to sing accurately. The closer you are to a mic, the more accurate you have to sing because you get more of those imperfections and more definition and everything. And so what I was hearing in the mix was everything sounded very close and intimate sounding. The guitars sounded very, very close. The bass even sounded close. The drums, the kick, the snare, everything sounded so wonderful and so defined. And I think that was masterfully done, really well done. I don't think it's the best sounding Rasmus album. Now, again, I will also say, I was listening on the free version of Spotify, which is the 192 kilobit MP3s. So hopefully if I get my CD copy at some point and I stick it in my CD player and I listen to it, it sounds a little bit more crispy, I wouldn't think that you would be able to tell a huge difference between the 192 kilobit MP3s. But I mean, a CD is 1,141 kilobits per second is what audio on a CD is rendered as, which is a huge difference, obviously. But with music, it's a little bit different. It's not as cut and dry as, for example, the difference between a Blu-ray and a VHS. The quality there is about as different mathematically as it would be to say to listen to a CD compared to a 192 kilobit MP3. But with music and with human hearing and the compression algorithms and all those different things and frequency responses and compression algorithms, and Spotify uses their own algorithms, I think, Amazon and iTunes uses their own things. But a CD quality audio is lossless audio. The only way you can get higher than that is if you hear something that has been recorded, mixed, mastered at 24 bits, which can also sometimes be confusing because if you can never upscale audio, just like you can upscale video, I guess, a little bit, but you can't upscale audio. If you take 192 kilobit MP3 sound and you burn it on a CD and then rip it off that CD, you're getting 1,141 kilobit per second audio. However, it can never be upscaled. Once it's taken down to 192 kilobits per second, it can never be brought back up. Anyway, I'm wasting time talking about this, but that kind of stuff always fascinates me. Same thing as the conversation between like CDs and vinyl and MP3s and vinyl and things like that. There's so many different things that go into what makes something sound good and bad. And if you listen to something on your phone, it's always going to sound bad no matter what. If you're listening through the speakers, obviously, if you have really nice headphones, it can sound fantastic through your phone. But if you've never really listened to something unless you've listened to it on either really good headphones or a pair of really nice speakers. And sometimes just being in a car and listening to something can be enough to constitute really good sound. But, I just always think about that, when people listen to music, what are they using to listen to the music? Are they just using ear pods? Are they just using earbuds? Are they using really good headphones? My headphones that I have are the best sounding headphones I've ever used, and they only cost $80. And I worked at a recording studio for 7 years, and I have tried Audio-Technica headphones. I've tried Sennheiser headphones. I've tried $350, $400 headphones. And to me, nothing I've ever heard has sounded as good as these headphones. And I have heard $20,000 speakers at the studio I used to work at. We used to have a mastering suite in there, and there were these enormous $20,000 speakers. Incredible. And I could sit in there and listen to music and be totally absorbed and have it just the lowest frequencies all the way to the highest frequencies. It was an absolute dream for me to be able to work at that building and to put anything in that I wanted to listen to it and actually work on things connected to those speakers. It was an absolute dream and a privilege that I had for so long. And now I have really nice speakers that I have set up in my basement here where I record, and I can just sit and listen to an album and just let it wash over me, and it's amazing. Anyway, sorry, I know I'm going on all these tangents just talking forever, but I guess what I'm trying to say is listen to the highest quality audio that you can on the best quality speakers or headphones that you can, and that's when you're truly experiencing the music in the way that you should. There really is a big difference between watching a movie in a theater and watching a movie on an airplane or on your cell phone. Huge difference. And the same thing can be said for audio. But anyway, Rasmus, fantastic. Rise, great album. I wish it was longer. That's the big negative that I would say, is that it felt short. Some of the songs felt short. They did fade one of the songs out, I think. I can't even remember. I can't remember now if they did or not. The album I listened to yesterday had 2 or 3 songs fade out, and it really disappointed me. But I feel like a couple of songs should have been longer in order to feel complete. 2 of the songs specifically, that last song and then Cloud, left me wanting more. They left me feeling like the song hadn't resolved itself and completed. And I understand that you can do that as an artist and have a song do that on purpose so that it is intentional, but I don't like that. So that might just be my subjective opinion, though. But fantastic album. I think that it would probably be in my top 4 favorite Rasmus albums. I don't know if I necessarily like this album as much as Black Roses, but I might. I would say that I like it more than Hell of a Tester. I would say that I like it more than Dark Matters, just off the first listen. I do like Dark Matters a lot, though. I definitely don't like it as much as Hide from the Sun, but that's, like I said, one of my favorite albums of all time, any genre. I would say that I maybe liked it about the same as Dead Letters, maybe. Interesting to think about, but fantastic, great surprise, really good album. If those 2 songs that disappointed me with their length and how they felt, if those would have been longer and felt resolved, I definitely wouldn't have any problem saying that this album would be in my top 12 for the year, which, if you're unaware, every year I do a top 12 albums video, and I've put a lot of time into creating my top 12 albums of the year list, and I've been doing it now for 12 years. Did it starting 2010. I've done it every year, and it's a very important, special thing to me that I do every year, and I put a lot of hours and effort into creating the list. Listening to a ton of music throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, really trying to cram in everything that I found and sort of listened to. But this year has been absolutely fantastic. And since there was even one negative thing that I could point out with this album, I don't know if this album will make it on my list because there's so many great things. But in years past, this album would definitely have been on the list the way it is. But the fact that those 2 songs felt too short to me was a bit of a bummer. But sometimes when I'm reacting to a song and I'm talking over it, and I know people get really annoyed with that sometimes, but to me the point of the reaction video is to react to the songs in real time. But when I'm talking over a song, I definitely miss things. And sometimes I'll miss a whole section of a song, so I'll feel like that song was shorter than it actually was. And I'll go back and listen to it again later, and I think, well, that was stupid of me. There was a whole section that I missed here. So my commenting on the structuring of the song was wrong, you know? So I don't know if that's the case here. I definitely think some of the songs were shorter, but I think the shortest song on the album still had a full 3 choruses and felt like a full song to me, so we'll see about that. I know I keep going on and on about the structuring, but to me that's the only negative thing that I can really comment on this album. I think everything else was fantastic. All the playing was perfect. The mixing was really great. The singing was really great. The vocal melodies were great. I feel like you'll be able to sing along with a lot of those choruses, and the ones that you really couldn't sing along with, I think were probably done intentionally so that it felt a little bit less sing along with me, let's write a pop song, and a little bit more serious, and so I think they did a great job with that. So overall, I think they did a fantastic job. Really happy with it, and I hope that they can use this momentum to continue to be a band and continue to release music in the future, because now in the last 10 years, I think we've only gotten 2 Rasmus albums, right? Because 2012 was the release of, so we've gotten 3 albums now in the last 10 years, and that's, you know, this was a surprise to me that we were going to get this album, but I was happy when I found out that they were doing Eurovision, so hopefully we can get a few more albums from them before they decide to hang up the boots or whatever. And I'm really excited to see what they would do in the future. Who knows? And if Eurovision really did help them gain popularity, I hope that they try to push that as far as it can go. And I hope we get a lot of really good Rasmus content out of this. So, oh, I totally forgot. I have my Rasmus DVD over there. I have my live, I forget what it's called, but I have my live DVD over there too. So just know that I do have that. It's awesome. I've watched it many times, or a couple times at least. Surround sound on it is good, I believe. I can't remember what year it came out exactly. I don't remember if it, I think they recorded it after Dead Letters came out, so I don't think that there are any Hide from the Sun songs on it. Otherwise, I would definitely appreciate it more. But I do have that over there too, so just to point that out. But yeah, with that, I'll end the video. Go out, listen to some great music, share this album with someone that you think might like it, share it with someone you think might not like it, because you never know, you might make them a fan, and that's the whole point of sharing music with people. So go out, do all that, have a great time, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much. Yeah. Ask. Because